Hey guys, it's Maestro here, and in today's video, we're going to be looking at some decks in the new Whizbang's expansion. In total, I think we're looking at about close to 30 decks, so a lot of good stuff to get into. You're totally open to borrow these decks and adjust them and refine them to your own taste and make balanced adjustments that you think are appropriate. Alright guys, so here's the deck list, and we're gonna get started off with the Zarimi Overheal OTK deck. Probably when this card was first released, Time Winder Zarimi, a lot of people were immediately thinking, oh my gosh, this card is so overpowered, you get an extra turn. Is there any sort of crazy combo that you can pull off with this that would result in like an OTK? And I don't exactly know since I haven't tried this deck for myself, but I do have an idea, and that is Heartbreaker Hidanis. Because what we're really looking at here is the Overheal deal 5 damage to a random enemy. That's going to be really strong. So the idea of how this deck basically works is first we are going to activate Time Winder Zarimi by summoning 5 other dragons. You don't need to play them, you just need to summon them. So we have Clay Matriarch here, which has a death rattle to summon a dragon and a miniaturize. So in total, with this one card, we are summoning 4 dragons if we play the card and the mini and let both of their death rattles activate. That's 4 dragons. We need one more, and that's going to come from Starlight Whelp. Okay, so those are the 5 dragons, and we're going to tutor those with Scale Replica. This is going to tutor those 5 dragons as well as Zarimi, since those are the only dragons that we have in this deck. Throughout the game, we also want to be playing Careless Crafters in order to get those 0 cost bandages that restore 3 health, and I'm going to explain how those are going to work in later, but hopefully we're going to get quite a few of those. Since we kind of seem like we're getting a heal / overheal package, I included some overheal minions, Crimson Clergy, that's going to be the draw engine. Creation Protocol, that's just standard finding, discovering copies of minion deck, overall very useful. Hidden Gem, again, kind of overheal. Mana Geode, overheal. What else? Injured Hauler, overheal. So this overheal package is not only our draw engine, but it's also going to kind of put pressure on the opponent in the early and mid game to answer any threats that they might pose to us, but also just kind of say that you can't just do whatever you want. Like, we're still going to put up a fight in some form, right? So that's kind of our overheal package. We also have Love Everlasting, which is going to save us a lot of mana on our cards like Thrive in the Shadows, Creation Protocol, Grace of the High Father, just saving us mana, kind of sustaining us as we search out all of the important combo pieces, which I'm going to get into in a moment. We also have Card Grader. This is a new card which lets you discover a card from your deck, which is obviously very good. So that's basically going to be how we're going to survive the middle and early games. We also have, we need to play Raza the Resealed to kind of activate the hero power refresh. Okay, so basically once we have all that set up and we have all of our combo pieces, so all of the combo pieces are going to be Papercraft Angel, Sing Along Buddy, we need Sing Along Buddy, Heartbreaker Hidanis, and Time Winder Zarimi. So this is how this combo works. You have to get to at least like turn 9, but basically turn 9 we're going to play Time Winder Zarimi and then Heartbreaker Hidanis, right? That's the first turn. Next turn, we are going to play Papercraft Angel and Sing Along Buddy. And basically, this is going to reduce our hero cost to 0 and trigger twice. And also let it refresh every time I play a card. So now with our 0 cost hero power that triggers twice and refreshes every time I play a card, we are going to basically heal Hidanis, alternating using our hero power and then various other bandages that we got from Careless Crafter. So hero power bandage, refresh, hero power bandage, refresh, hero power bandage, etc, etc. And that's going to basically continuously overheal Hadanis, and he's going to continuously deal 5 damage to a random enemy. Alright, the next deck we're going to look at is under the next priest deck called the Hand Dragon deck. So this is also a Dragon Priest deck that also runs Time Winder Zarimi, but this has more of just like a tribal dragon focus, not so much a gimmicky OTK, but just like getting a lot of dragons out there. And the reason why it's a hand dragon deck is that we are taking advantage of the Mountain Giant. Yeah, this is a card that's new to our core set, which benefits from having lots of cards in our hand. And that's because a lot of the strong dragons, Origami Dragon, Sunspot Dragon, Clay Matriarch, Twilight Drake, a lot of the good dragons are kind of the more middle to upper mana cost dragons. So these are what we really want. And we're going to, since they're higher cost, we're going to end up holding those in our hand if we draw them. But that's not a problem at all, because once we have a big hand, we can play those 3 mana Mountain Giants. We can play those Fly Off the Shelves, which just basically AoE clear the enemy minions because we're holding hands full of dragons. Starlight Whelp also to continue maintaining our hand size, building our hand size. Twilight Drake, again, is going to get strong off a big hand size. Time-Lapse Proto-Joe, just building the hand size. And then another card that I think that's kind of neglected is our Storm Giant, because this is partly part of the Forge package that we're including. We'll be including a Forge package with this deck. But the reason I like Storm Giant with this deck is because you can forge it endlessly, and basically you can spend mana towards playing this card without actually playing it. So not only are you forging to activate your Ignis, you're not losing a card in your hand. This can stay in your hand all the way until 0 mana. Which again, having a big hand size is going to help with Mountain Giant and all those things we just mentioned. Also, once this is 0 mana, you can use Power Core Synchronize to add another copy of it to get another 0 mana 8/8, which would be really strong. And then hopefully we've just, at that point, summoned enough dragons and built a big enough board so that when we play Zarimi, we have like basically 2 turns of like just sending minions, a lot of minions straight to face, and that's enough to finish the game. Alright, so the next deck we're looking at is another version of the Dragon Priest deck, except now with the Highlander package. So with Highlander Dragon, again, it's similar idea to kind of Hand Dragon, but since we also include Elise Badlands Savior, we have another way to create a super wide board. And a lot of dragons are really they work really well with Elise, because get a Stone Drake off Elise, that's really good. A Sunspot Dragon off Elise, that's really good. Evasive Worm off Elise, very good. Clay Matriarch off Elise, very good. So that's kind of the idea, is that we just basically have another kind of layer of threats in the form of Highlander, making a huge wide board of a lot of strong dragons. Yeah, just general kind of board control stuff. Fight Over Me, Distort, Pendant of Earth to Discover stuff. So hopefully we just have like enough layers of threats in the form of like forging a weapon, in the form of having giants on board, in the form of having a lot of strong dragons, in the form of Elise, Reno. Like this deck is kind of a layering like as many threats and packages as possible into Highlander Priest. So yeah. Alright, so the next priest deck we have is an expansion kind of highlight on a Whizbang card, which is Chalk Artist. So for those who don't know, Chalk Artist is a 4 mana 4/3 minion that has battle card draw a minion, transform it into a random legendary when keeping its original stats and cost. So basically, we want to draw minions that have really good stats for cost, and like we don't really care about whatever text that is actually printed on the minion. And we have a few cards like that, like Static Waveforms, a 3 mana 5/6. So really good stats for the cost. And again, we don't care about the actual text because that doesn't matter. What else? Careless Mechanist, that's a 3 mana 4/5. Again, we don't care about the text. It's just the stats and the cost that matter. And if we have to play like a Careless Mechanist or a static waveform from hand, we also have Purifying Power to silence those minions because they have kind of bad like card text anyways. And then we give them +1/+2. Sort of a silence priest in a way. And we also have Raw Den. Hopefully like Raw Den doesn't get drawn and transformed because that would just be a big loss. Hearthstone Brew, because if I'm being honest, you're probably not going to really like your hand with this deck. And then just like, yeah, Love Everlasting, and then just a bunch of other spells to kind of survive the game. Make your own Ziliax as well. You probably want to go for like the module that does damage to your own hero with Ziliax, so you get like a 4 mana 8/8. But yeah, you're basically just trying to survive and then hopefully make good draws off Chalk Artist. So next, we're looking at the Death Knight class, and this was really exciting expansion for Death Knight. They got a lot of really strong cards. The two decks we're going to look at for Death Knight are the Handbuff Death Knight and Rainbow Death Knight. So let's start off with Handbuff Death Knight. So Whizbang expansion released a lot of hand buff cards like Lesser Spine or Spellstone, Shambling Zombie Tank, which summons a copy of itself. Blood Tap is coming to core. Nerubian Swarm Guard is now runeless and is in core. Amateur Puppeteer. Give undead in your hand +2/+2. That's a big hand buff. We have really strong minions to get that would really benefit off of those hand buffs, like Hollow Hound, of course. Nesting Golem, which if it gets buffed, you actually buff the total number of resummons it has because it's going to resummon with -1/-1. And it's an undead too, which is really great. So it works with Amateur Puppeteer. Darkthorn Quilter, so if it has a really high attack off hand buff, it's going to benefit off of that, deal a lot of damage. Harmonic Metal, this is another hand buff card. One thing is that you do require gaining a lot of corpses in order to improve like the spell stones and in order to activate the zombie tanks. So we have like Eulogizer if we need to gain a couple of quick corpses. Soulbreaker to gain some more corpses. Dr. Stitchin' So. This is a really great like 1 mana like nesting golem that has a lot of really strong potential. And then we got Headless Horseman too. Overall like value and control with destroying the enemy minion. So yeah, that's the idea of this deck, is basically gain corpses, improve your spell stones, and get your zombie tanks online. Use Blood Tap, Harmonic Metal, and Amateur Puppeteer to buff your hand, and then play a bunch of really strong like Hollow Hounds, Nesting Golems, Soulbreaker, or Darkthorn Quilters, Nerubian Swarm Guards, because those are great hand buff cards. And then hopefully just like, win from there. So we also saw a lot of support for the Rainbow Death Knight kind of deck ideas, especially with Rainbow Seamstress, which basically is like a 3 mana Ziliax a little bit, not exactly, but kind of the same idea. And especially if you have all 3 runes, you're going to get a Lifesteal, Reborn, and Rush, which is really nice for 3 mana. Again, Dr. Stitchin' So for great value. We also included a Excavate package because Excavate's really good. Pile of Bones is really good. Oh, Caricature Artist is new. That's gonna help us tutor our Corpse Brides to help us spend corpses, as well as our Dr. Stitchin' So and Primuses, and our Reska, Finding Casualty, getting a lot of corpses, spending a lot of corpses through Maw and Paw and Corpse Bride, and hopefully buffing our big climactic necrotic explosion to be really strong at the end. I like Discover as a mechanic because it basically is a flexible way to just discover a card that you need in a specific situation. Maybe it'll help you discover, the Hematurge would help you discover a better card that you would need at that moment while developing a 2/3 minion. I think this deck is already doing really well in meta right now. But this is my version, so feel free to kind of make any adjustments that you would like to do instead. All right, The next class we're looking at is Hunter, and we have 2 decks we'll be looking at, which is our Beast Hunter and our Secret Highlander Hunter. Alright, so with our Beast Hunter, we saw in this expansion cards like Mystery Egg come out, and this is really good because Yelling Yodeler is still gonna be in standard. So if this stays on board and then you play Yelling Yodeler, like you're getting a lot of really great value off Mystery Egg, such as our Tyrannosaurus, Savannah Highmane, King Mukla, Hollow Hound, King Plush. Okay, and then once all those big beasts are summoned and maybe they get destroyed, we also have Stranglethorn Heart to resummon them. So that's our big beast end of this deck. We also have a small beast end of this deck. RC Rampage, summon 6 1/1 hounds, as well as the remote control. Once you have that wide board, you can use Jungle Gym, you can use Saddle Up, Hemet Foam Marksman. All of the RC hounds are mech beasts, so you can trade in your wide board of little beasts to get a bunch of legendary beasts that cost 2 less. So, and you can use Yelling Yodeler with like Savannah Highmane. Use it with Tyrannosaurus as well. Yelling Yodeler is versatile card for all those big death rattles. So the next Hunter deck we're looking at is Highlander Secret Hunter. And that's because we got a lot of good secret support cards with the updated core set. Lesser Emerald Spellstone, right? So that's a great secret support card. Like Ice Trap, that's coming back, as well as Rat Trap, maybe some other cards, other secrets. And the reason why Secret works well with Highlander is because you can only have one secret of a type up anyways. So like if you're not gonna run into the problem where you're drawing a secret that you still have in play because you only have one of each secret. And then Observer of Mysteries, but that works well with Starstrung Bow. Because again, that's possible that you're getting more secrets that trigger. Jungle Jammer, since we have a lot of spells in the form of secrets. Harmonica Soloist, discover, cast a secret. Oh yeah, Barak Kodobane to help us draw our secrets in 1-cost and 3-cost spells. Like Ball of Spiders, that's new. And we sideboarded Yogg, Silver Serpent, and then another Starstrung Bow. Playing a lot of secrets, getting a lot of value out of those secrets, and then hopefully being able to close out the game with like a Starstrung Bow or just like overall value with all your other cards. All right, so the next class we're looking at is Mage, and the Whizbang cards for Mage were sort of interesting because it didn't seem like they were going for like a huge powerhouse combo burn mage or anything like that. It was more just like casino RNG mage. So the first deck we're looking at is going to be the no minion spell mage. So the Whizbang's expansion, mage cards such as Spot the Difference, cards like these, they benefit off of having no minions in your deck, as well as Manufacturing Error and Yogg in the box. So we don't have any minions, but we do have some weapons, as well as the location of Yogg Saron. So the idea is basically just play a bunch of spells that like kind of do random stuff, and hopefully that it ends well. Because Yogg in the box, like that's a high risk, high reward card. Galactic Projection Orb is going to repeat all the spells you played. Cosmic Keyboard is going to summon a bunch of elementals, which is really nice. Yeah, just like a lot of spells to kind of help you discover value and get through the early middle game. And then hopefully the RNG gods of Hearthstone will bless you and give you some good spells off of Yogg Saron and Yogg in the Box and Galactic Projection Orb to close out the game. So the new elemental cards we have are Watercolor Artist. So for example, if you draw Frostlich Cross Stitch, it's going to continue reducing for 5 turns until it gets to 0. And we have Sleet Skater, kind of prolonging kind of the middle game, giving you some more armor survivability, Tainted Remnant, and the usual kind of Flame Revenant, Shell Spider, Overflow Surger. We also have Triple Wick Trickster. supplementing the existing elemental package with a few more Whizbang minions. And then we have Puzzle Master Khadgar. Yeah, just kind of like a tribal elemental that incorporates some of the newer Whizbang elementals and then has some more late game value with Khadgar. The next class we're looking at is Rogue, starting with our Pirate Rogue. So we got a huge pirate package with this expansion. Cards like Dig for Treasure, Treasure Distributor, Toy Boat, Bargain Bin Buccaneer. I think South Sea Captain is coming back. Sandbox Scoundrel, Shoplifter Goldbeard. So it makes a lot of sense to just put these cards all together, as well as Water Cannon. But a really cool combo you can pull off with Shoplifter Goldbeard. You want to have the Crystal Cove already in play, and you want to also have your Water Cannon equipped. But the idea is you're going to play Shoplifter Goldbeard, and then you're going to play a miniature version of Sandbox Scoundrel. It's going to reduce your next card by 3. And then you're going to activate your Crystal Cove card and then play Bargain Bin Buccaneer, which is going to summon as a 4/4. And a copy of this is going to summon as a 4/4. And then Shoplifter Goldbeard is going to summon copies of those two as 4/4s, which attack random enemies and die. You attack with your weapon, which again, Shoplifter Goldbeard doubles that summon. So basically, you're taking advantage of Shoplifter Goldbeard's kind of doubling ability. And then also, if you have Toy Boat played, you're going to be drawing a bunch of cards off of all those pirates if you have Toy Boat in play. And then you can play Everything Must Go. Summon 2 4-cost minions for like 0 mana. You also have Sonia Water Dancer if you want to get like a 0-cost mini of your Sandbox Scoundrel. You get 0 cost of like all these 1-cost cards, which would be really good. So basically an aggro pirate package with some Shoplifter Goldbeard combos and some value through Sonia Water Dancer. And the next deck we're looking at is an Excavate Cutlass Rogue. Spectral Cutlass is rotating back into Rogue. So again, we can kind of build a deck off of this card. Flint Firearm, Kajamite Creation, Velarok Windblade, Hench Clan Burglar, as well as Tess. All of these cards kind of go into the Thief Rogue package, which is going to add a lot of durability to our Spectral Cutlass. Harmonic Hip Hop to add some attack to our Cutlass. Shadestone Skulker is not really played, but it's basically 1 mana. We're pretty much always going to have a weapon equipped. This is basically a 1 mana 3/3 if you take the Spectral Cutlass, or if you have this buffed, could be like a 1 mana 6/3, takes the weapon, gives it back. So that works well with our weapon. So yeah, that's the idea is we have 2 layers of Excavate and then the Thief layer. So those Excavate layer, Thief layer to get us through the early middle game. Going to the late game, we're going to be getting a lot of value. We have Tess Greymane to help us replay all those cards. So that's the idea, basically our Thief Rogue. Okay, next we have our Demon Hunter. Starting with the big Magtheridon. So the big legendary for this deck is Magtheridon Unreleased. 8 mana 12/12 Mech Demon, dormant for 2 turns. While dormant, deal 3 damage to all enemies at the end of your turn. So the idea is to draw Magtheridon with Umpire's Grasp and reduce its cost. Continue reducing its cost with Raging Fell Screamer because that's the only demon in the entire deck. And then once you play Magtheridon, you actually just want to keep it dormant. So you take advantage of its dormant effect and continue dealing wave after wave of damage to the enemy hero, the enemy board. And you're going to keep it dormant through like Sheriff Barrel Brim. You can use that on your own minion, as well as red card and Crimson Expanse. We can summon another copy of Magtheridon, which goes dormant for another turn. and the dormant stacks with the 2 turns already. So for example, if you play red card on Magtheridon dormant for 2 turns, it's gonna stack with the dormant for 2 turns on the minion for a total of 4 turns of dormant. That's great for just getting a lot of like wave after wave of 3 damage to hopefully just wear down the opponent. Throughout the early and middle game, we have like cards that kind of just help you stay alive. Burning Heart can be played on the Magtheridon to make it damage, so you can use Crimson Expanse on it, and then Workshop Mishap. So basically kind of controlling the early middle game with these cards, maybe getting in some chip damage with CCG and Snake Eyes, and eventually surviving it to the late game to play a Magtheridon and basically take advantage of its dormant ability to just send wave after wave of damage until the enemy gets worn down. Alright, next we have our Demon Highlander deck. So this is just kind of putting in all of the good value Demon Hunter cards like CCG, Snake Eyes, all the good value Demon Hunter cards, Auxiliacs, kind of the usual stuff, along with our Reno ability with our Gunslinger Kurtrus to disrupt the opponent, maybe snipe some really important combo pieces or minions. Window Shopper for a lot of good value. Early game stuff and aggression to chip down their life total enough so that you can somehow find a win, maybe generated through like an inner demon off CCG or something like that, or going down swinging. Kind of mid-range deck, but also with some late game potential with like Reno being a board clear. The next deck is the Draw Giant Demon Hunter deck, and I'm actually pretty excited for this deck because I run a version of this deck with Hodir, but the same idea applies because we now have cards like Playhouse Giant, which costs less for each card you've drawn, and Mountain Giant for having a big hand of cards. Basically, the idea of this deck is to draw a bunch of cards, do like Glaive Tar, which we're going to juice with a lot of like value outcast cards like Spectral Sight, Wayward Sage, Illidari Studies, Crimson Sigil Runner. Those are going to help us draw cards, but also juice our Glaive Tar. We have Quick Pick as well for card draw. Basically drawing our way through our deck. And then eventually we're going to play some Gaslight Gatekeepers to again draw a bunch of cards and hopefully have some 0 mana Mountain and 0 mana Playhouse Giants, which we can then use Celestial Projectionist to get another 0 mana Playhouse Giant. Also Abyssal Bassist, because we're going to be equipping a bunch of weapons, 1 mana Abyssal Bassist, which again you can use Celestial Projectionist with that. Because you're going to be drawing a bunch of cards, you're going to have a big hand, so 3 mana Mountain Giants as well. And then at the very end, you're going to have like probably a big board of giants. And then, you know, maybe you're going to have some really strong mind benders, because having a limited number of cards in your deck, that way when you play Gaslight Gatekeeper, you're pretty much guaranteed to draw your mind bender. And so like dealing basically 10 damage off of Gaslight Gatekeeper, Mindbender. If you have Argonite Golem on your board already, that can be another 11 damage. So having multiple ways to kind of close out the game. I ran a version of this deck with Son of Hodir, which I have a separate video of. If you're interested, that's on my channel. But that works really well because when you have 10 or less cards in your deck and then you play Gaslight Gatekeeper, you're guaranteed pretty much to hit all of the summoned Son of Hodirs. Yeah, that's pretty much the idea of our Draw Giant Demon Hunter. Next class we're looking at is a Warlock class. We have 3 decks for Warlock: the Handlock Big Demon, Fatigue Imp, and a new and improved Sludge Warlock. So the idea of our Handlock Warlock is, as you probably guessed, to develop a big hand through just holding a lot of cards with our hero power, as well as excavating more cards to get more value. And then hopefully we can benefit off of our big hand with some 3-mana mountain giants, with some really cheap table flips. You could play this for 1 mana, as well as some Dark Alley packs. So those cards are going to help us benefit off of our large hand size. Sketch Artist is going to give us some card draw, and since we get a temporary copy, that's going to help out with our hand size. So that's basically how we're going to try and survive the middle and early game, with just building our hand size, using some board control, and then a few Excavate minions, a few playable demons, because when we get to the late game is when we get a lot of our big demon value, with the flagship legendary Game Master Dmg, draw a demon and Death Rattle swap places with it. So we have a bunch of big demons here: Enhanced Dreadlord, Wretched Queen, Moarg Drillfist, as well as Malefic Rook. So the big demon package for Warlock isn't super powerful right now. So we're just kind of working with the best minions, the best demon minions that we have. But it does work well with the Excavate package, since Moarg Drillfist is an Excavate minion. We also have Dirge of Despair to summon more demons from our deck. Lock-in Jail of Saran to help us discover the Game Master Dmg or any other demons that might be playable. Symphony of Sins just to get more value. So yeah, that's the idea of this deck, is we're using board control and Excavate to kind of get value and survive the early and middle games. And then hopefully we're going to make it to the late game where we can get a lot of good Game Master Dmg value with all the big demons that we have. Just outvalue the opponent in the late game. Alright, so the next Warlock deck is the Fatigue Imp Warlock. The idea of this deck is that we'll be dealing damage to ourselves with cards like Bloodbound Imp, Crescendo, and hopefully that's going to not only get us into a deeper level of fatigue for when we play our Crazed Conductor, but also deal damage to our own hero, which is going to help get down our mountain giants, as well as the Imprisoned Horrors. We also have only one shadow spell, which is Monstrous Form, and that's so it can be exclusively tutored with Sketch Artist. So we get 2 copies of it for a really quick and kind of explosive stat buff, and then we can use Forge of Wills to copy those stats onto a giant. Fiddlefire Imp just to generate more board control and fire spell aggression. False String Harp, so that we maybe negate some of the damage and we can restore some health back to our hero. A Malefic Rook working towards Molten Giants and things like that. Tabletop Role Player, it's more of like an aggressive kind of mid-range aggro card, since it gives friendly demons +2 attack and immune. So that's why I kind of included this one, because we have a lot of imps, which are demons. Close out the end game, we have Lord Jaraxxus and Sargeras the Destroyer. So that's pretty much the idea of this deck. Next, we have our new and improved Sludge Warlock. So we have the standard Sludge Warlock package to start with, but then we also added Sketch Artist. We're going to specifically tutor Table Flip to help us give us more control, more board control for wide enemy minion boards. It's a wide board of low health minions. We're not going to get a lot of value off those sludges. Having a Sketch Artist exclusively tutor Table Flip is going to give us a lot of better control options for this deck. We're also going to have Mountain Giant, because we're going to be holding lots of different sludges and snake oils in our hand, so getting these down for cheap is good. Phenodum as usual. Sargeras as well to close out the end game. I don't have Symphony of Sins in this, because that card shuffles the deck, and you want all the sludges to be at the bottom of the deck for a chaos creation and waste remover. If you use Symphony of Sins, that shuffles the deck. And then lastly, in the ETC, I have our Wheel of Death, as well as Twisting Nether and Lord Jaraxxus. And I added Wheel of Death as an afterthought because I think this will interact with the sludges. I don't think it's necessary because we're not shuffling our deck, and so our Chaos Creation Waste Remover, these cards should be more than enough to clear out the sludges at the bottom of our deck. But this is like a burst option if we really need to just destroy our deck and hopefully burn all those sludges. And then just another alternative win condition. So next we're looking at the Shaman class. We have 2 decks with Shaman, a Shudderblock Wish Shaman and the Highlander Elemental. So the idea with the Shudderblock Wish Shaman is that we have Hagatha the Fabled and Shudderblock in this deck, and we want to play Hagatha the Fabled in order to draw 2 spells that cost 5 or more, which is going to be our 2 Wish Upon a Stars. And it's going to transform those into slimes, which are 1/1 minions that cast those spells. After which, we want to play our Shudderblock and then play one of the slimes that cast the spells. So basically, the Shudderblock is going to trigger the slime battle cry 3 times. It's going to trigger Wish Upon a Star 3 times. A lot of minions that would really benefit off of that. Joymancer Geppetto is going to give us more copies of those 1/1 slimes and minis. Forest is going to help us draw the Battlecry minions. And then Floppy Hydra, as a death roll, it will shuffle itself into your deck and then double its attack and health. So if you, I think that's how the interaction works, is if you can Wish Upon a Star onto Floppy Hydra, and then it's going to permanently double those additional stats. So you're going to get a lot of Floppy Hydra value. Cattle Rustler to exclusively tutor the Floppy Hydras. Nesting Golem because this again gains a lot more resummons if you buff it more. We also have Shining Sentinel, which summons a copy of itself, which is great for hand buff kind of things. Saloon Brewmaster if we need to bounce any of those 1/1s. Lightning Reflexes for board control. Ziliax overall for great value. Probably you want to pick the summon a copy of this module so that you get additional value from those Wish Upon a Star buffs. Gaslight Gatekeeper if you need to shuffle your hand to find the card. Azurite Chain Gang because it summons a copy of itself. We sort of have a bit of a slower start with this deck. We have Baking Soda Volcano for board control. Trusty Companion. That's going to help us if we use this on another Floppy Hydra. That's going to tutor the other Floppy Hydra. It's also going to get us the Nesting Golems and the Gaslight Gatekeepers because those are both undead minions. Okay, next we have our Highlander Elemental Shaman. So to start off, we have our basic Highlander package with Marut, Dr. Holiday, and Reno. And one of the big interactions that I wanted to see was Sandar Elemental interacting with the Dr. Holiday weapon. Because if you give your hero wind power with the Staff of 9 Frogs, it's going to be able to summon 2 frogs a turn, and you're going to get a lot of frog value off of that. Shaman has a pretty extensive elemental package already, so it wasn't difficult to find just a lot of good elementals to put in, like Brass Elemental, even new elementals like Sweet and Snow Flurry, Siamat, Scar, Therazane, Alakir. Elementals work really well with Highlander because the package is just so extensive. Like there's just so many different elementals that are really good together. We also have incredible value, get a 3-mana 7/7, so you could discover a Brass Elemental, which would be really great. Elementals and then some more kind of board control stuff. Next class we're looking at is Paladin. We have Handbuff, Toy Token, and an updated Big Paladin. So the big Handbuff cards we're kind of experimenting with are Painter's Virtue, Wind Up Enforcer. We also have standard stuff like Grime Street Outfitter, Muscletron, and then we also included Outfit Tailor. This is not a common card, but since it gives its own health and attack to another friendly minion, you basically get a double hand buff value off of this. And then we're experimenting with like Bucket of Soldiers. This can be easily buffed into something that has attack and then can just attack into other enemies. Since a lot of our hand buff minions, either Bucket of Soldiers, like this is going to summon a wide board, but also Azurite Chain Gang is going to summon a wide board. Wind Up Enforcer is going to summon a wide board. Nesting Golem is going to be a really sticky minion. And again, this is going to gain a lot of resummons with the bigger stats. So we're going to have a pretty sticky board or a wide board. We also have Tigress Plushie. Crusader Aura to take advantage of all those kind of friendly minion attacks, as well as Dance Floor to give our minions rush the turn they get summoned. And we have Trinket Artist, which is an incredible draw value minion because not only is it a minion, so it's going to get buffed, but it draws 2 cards, which is Divine Shield and Aura. So it's going to help us draw our Tiger's Plushie, which is really good, and our Crusader's Aura. In the high end of this deck, we have the new Pipsy Paint Hoof. So hopefully it hits Amethyst, and it hits Tyrion, and it hits Runthak. Those are kind of the 3 big legendaries that it could possibly hit. Next, we have the toy Token Paladin. So the idea of this deck is to create a wide board of token minions through things like Mining Casualties, Bucket of Soldiers. This can be buffed through Deputization Aura, so it gets some attack. Muster for Battle, and Boogie Down, Badland Bandits. And then hopefully we can use a flash sale to give our wide board of token minions a big AoE buff. We can use Toy Captain Tarim in order to buff one of our 1/1 minions into a 3/7 and then get a miniaturize to use for board control. After we've created like a wide board, we can take advantage of Sea Giant, Crowd Surfer, and hopefully with just like good trading and good RNG, this is gonna land on our own minions. Victorious Vycool for more token value, Dance Floor to give our minions rush, Hi-Ho Silverwing, this is going to help us draw our auras. We have Deputization Aura as well as Crusader Aura, and then Cardboard Golem is hopefully going to increase the value of those auras. Alright, next deck is our updated Big Paladin deck. Big Paladin is already a deck in the standard format. Of course, we have Kangor Dancing King, but we updated it with kind of more minions towards the big end with our Pipsy Paint Hoof, which again, hopefully we'll draw like Amethyst or Kologarn or Tyrion. If we end up drawing these minions, we're probably going to end up holding them in our hands. So Mountain Giant to kind of benefit off of holding a lot of big minions in hand. Their board control stuff like Prismatic Beam, Consecration, Alarm Security Bot to maybe draw some big high value Death Rattle minions. The early middle game plan for this deck is sort of token value as well as control, because we have Mining Casualties, Muster for Battle, and Flash Sale. We don't want to put any like small minions into this deck because again, we want Lead Dancer to exclusively tutor Kangor. Alright, next we have a Mech Aura Paladin. So this is our Mech Aura deck, and we have a big mech package. Mech Paladin has been a pretty strong paladin or package for Paladin for a while, so we just have all pretty much the standard mechs, as well as some pretty strong auras like Inventor's Aura, which can reduce the cost of all our mechs, as well as Crafter's Aura and Resistance Aura. All of the auras are holy spells, so we can tutor those off of Hi-Ho Silverwing, as well as Trinket Artist, Flame Behemoth, Replicating Menace to give stuff for Mecha Leper to magnetize onto, and then just the usual Mech Paladin package. Okay, next is our Highlander Aura Paladin. So this deck has a big aura package. I included all of the auras in this deck, and I also made this a Highlander Excavate deck, so it has the Highlander package, Cardboard Golem in order to increase the value of those auras. We're running a Mech package in order to take advantage of the Inventor's Aura. This deck, we're kind of just layering lots of different things. We're layering Highlander with Excavate, with auras and mechs. So hopefully all of those things are just going to come together really well. Okay, next we're going to look at the Druid class, and we have a few decks here. We have a spell damage deck possibly, as well as a Highlander shuffle deck and a hero power deck. So this deck is built off the new spell damage package that Druid got off of the expansion. So we're pretty much including all of the spell damage minions. It's not really clear exactly how to use spell damage to win, because there are not a lot of damaging spells that Druid has for cheap. And we have like Living Roots, which is a cheap mana spell that deals damage. You have Swipe, able to use like Dry Scale Deputy to double those spells, as well as Bottomless Toy Chest to get more copies of all those Oh, as well as Pyrotechnician. Hopefully this will generate more random fire spells that deal damage for us. The idea is to basically play 1 or 2 in Smallens to reduce the cost of all minions in our deck. Summer Flower Child to tutor our Arloniuses, as well as our Freyas and our ANRs. So we're gonna be able to play Arlonius for cheap, maybe like 5 mana. Maybe we have our Magical Dollhouse, and then we want to play Sparkling File. We're going to use this, and then the next card is going to cost that much less. Maybe we'll have a Wind Up Sapling restore us 2 mana so that we can play ANR to restore all of our mana crystals, and then continue comboing with like more swipes, more miniaturized Chia Drakes, maybe use Freya to duplicate our hand. Okay, next is our Highlander Druid Shuffle deck. So again, we have our pretty standard Druid Highlander package with Raystraza, as well as Reno and Marut. Raystraza is going to be tutored with Take to the Skies along with our Desert Nest Matron. And then we just have the new Whizbang cards like Sky Mother Aviana, right? It's going to shuffle 10 1-cost legendaries into our deck, and hopefully we can draw those off of Sharp-Eyed Seeker, as well as Gaslight Gatekeeper and Card Grader. And then we also have Floppy Hydra, which is going to shuffle itself into our deck. Or we can tutor with Peaceful Piper. Oh, we can have Fizzle to shuffle again all of our good value cards back into our deck. Then in our ETC, we have our Son of Hodir, as well as kind of other value stuff. Son of Hodir is good because it shuffles new minions into our deck, which can be drawn with Sharp-Eyed Seeker or Gaslight Gravedigger. I also included a treant package with like Drum Circle, Cultivation, Witchwood Apple, Aerial Soilizer, as well as Jade Display. That's going to shuffle more minions into our deck. The last Druid deck we'll look at is the Hero Power Druid. So in the new core set for Standard, we have some new Hero Power kind of support cards, such as Justicar Trueheart, Sing Along Buddy. These 2 cards kind of enable a Hero Power Druid to make a bigger comeback. So of course we have the typical Groovy Cat and Free Spirit to boost our hero power, as well as Peaceful Piper to tutor those minions, Celestial Projectionist to possibly double those minions, Embrace of Nature, which I think is good for tutoring popular Pixie. Oh, and Park Panther is rotating back into core set as well, which gives our hero +3 attack. Geomancer Geppetto is great for getting back a bunch of copies of those Free Spirits or Groovy Cats, because those are either 1 health or 1 attack. We have Zog Fogsnout to close out the game, draw value cards, spread the word. Okay, finally, we are looking at the Warrior class. We got 3 Warrior decks, Big Mech, Highlander Mech, and the new Odyn Warrior with Lab Patron. So as the name implies, the idea of the Big Mech Warrior is to play a bunch of big mechs, testing dummies, fireworkers, bot face, factory assembly bot, hopefully cheating them out with like cards like Chemical Spill. Hopefully we get to use Crimson Expanse to basically replicate those minions. And in the early game, we have also another mech package, kind of like a magnetized mech package. We can at least build up a small mech by magnetizing it a bunch, and then we'll have like a really magnetized mech, which we can then use Crimson Expanse on to get a bunch of value on those magnetized minions. We also have Mecha Leaper, just because hopefully we'll be creating like a lot of wide boards with things like Replicating Menace to get Mecha Leaper to basically leap its buff between mechs, and then hopefully take advantage of like the Death Rattle mech support cards such as Recum and Decum and Boom Wrench. Hopefully those will get to synergize with our Death Rattle mechs. Just overall good cards like our Ziliax, and then we have Sanguine Depths in order to damage our mechs, get them ready for the Crimson Expanse. Towards the end of the game, use Joymancer Geppetto to get back all our 1 mana or all our mini minions. And then use Inventor Boom to resurrect our big mechs. Alright, next we have the Highlander mech version of this. So this is a very similar deck to the one to Big Mech Warrior, except now we are running a Highlander package, and then also some board control cards, and then also an Excavate package. So basically, the Highlander mech is big mech plus a Highlander package plus Excavates plus some board control. So kind of just combining all of those three things. Okay, and our last deck is the Odyn Warrior with Lab Patron. This is a pretty standard Odyn Warrior deck. You have a Rift package as well as some control package, and then kind of some armor gaining. We now also have safety goggles and Lab Patron to kind of synergize with all the armor gain. Alright guys, so that sums it up for our complete Whizbang deck overview. This is sort of just a reference video for you guys to kind of explore different deck ideas. Obviously these decks aren't going to be perfect, but hopefully they give you some ideas and some starting points for your deck building. And so let me know in the comments the experiences that you guys have with these different decks, or any thoughts or suggestions that you might have as well. I'm really excited for this new expansion, and yeah, hope you guys are gonna tag along for the journey. You see all the cool deck ideas we have, so we got a lot of great ideas for content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hope to see you next time.